Discover how two struggling brothers built Adidas and Puma and unraveled their family forever. In a small post-war German town, the warm, yeasty aroma of fresh bread filled the air, mixing with the echo of laughter from two brothers, Adi and Rudy. But beneath their smiles lay the weight of dreams that were just as fragile as the dough they needed. Adi, the younger brother at 18, was full of ambition and hopes of creating the best athletic shoes. Rudy, at 21, shared the same vision, believing that together they could help local athletes and perhaps one day chase the elusive American dream they often whispered about during late nights in their mother's bakery. The kitchen was their sanctuary, where they molded their futures as deftly as they shaped the loaves of bread. They worked side by side, flour dusting their hair, eyes sparkling with possibilities. "What if we create something more?" Adi said, his voice trembling with excitement. "Something that puts our town on the map." Rudy nodded, their shared passion igniting the space around them. Yet, ambition can be a double-edged sword. One day, driven by his determination, Adi made a decision that would change everything. He had the flame of innovation in his eyes when he decided to start his own company, Adidas, later known as Adidas. Rudy felt blindsided. His heart burned with betrayal. He had believed they were a team. Consumed by anger and desperation, he retaliated, launching his own brand, Puma. What was once a bond of brotherhood snapped, transforming their joint dream into a fierce rivalry, with the town watching closely as tensions rose. The bakery where they had once shared laughter now filled with bitter silence. Neighbors whispered, debates sparked over coffee, and their mother watched with worry that her two boys were slipping away from each other, while they chased their ambitions. Then came the day that would change everything for both brothers. During a major competition, a beloved local athlete stumbled due to a malfunction in his Puma shoes. Gasps filled the air when the news broke. Hearts sank, and whispers morphed into shouts of outrage. The community, once united behind Rudy, felt the sting of betrayal, and eyes turned to both brothers as they faced a devastating reality. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the town erupted into chaos, the brothers faced each other, the weight of their choices suffocating them. Tears welled up as memories of shared laughter twisted into echoes of anger. Their dreams, once nourished in the warm embrace of their mother's bakery, now felt sour, enveloped in loss as family turned on family. Winter turned into spring, and the hope for renewal hung thick in the air. Yet with each passing day, the question loomed larger. Could blood bind them together again after all that had transpired? Their hearts longed for forgiveness, but the road to redemption seemed longer than ever. With dreams on fire and a community demanding justice, would Adi and Rudy be able to bridge the gap of rivalry and mend the family they had broken? The sun rose softly, casting a golden glow over the small town as petals began to burst forth from the cherry blossoms. A sense of hope hung in the air, blending with the sense of spring. Adi and Rudy, each in their own world, felt the pull of the softer days but struggled with the hardened edges of their hearts. As Adi stood in his workshop, the faint sounds of machinery surrounded him, a constant reminder of both his ambition and his guilt. Every shoe he crafted felt like a weight on his conscience. He could still picture Rudy's eyes the day he took that momentous step, filled with betrayal. The laughter they had shared echoed in the back of his mind, taunting him with memories of what they could have built together. Across town, Rudy paced in his office, frustration boiling beneath his calm facade. The whispers of the townsfolk were relentless. They no longer cheered for him. Every time someone mentioned the athlete's fall, it felt like a dagger in his heart. He had lost everything: his company, his brother, and their mother's faith. The rivalry was tearing apart not only their family but the community that had once supported them. When Adi received a letter inviting him to a town meeting, he hesitated. The meeting aimed to address the fallout from the athlete's injury, and strangely, it had been called by their mother. He knew it would be filled with tension, but deep down, he felt the call to confront the ghosts haunting them both. Perhaps this was the chance to start mending the rift. Rudy, on the other hand, felt a surge of dread. He couldn't bear seeing Adi again, but a flicker of longing for family tugged at his heart. He thought of their mother, the heart of their family, and if he would let her down by not attending. Swallowing his pride, he decided to go. The community hall buzzed with familiar faces as the brothers entered from opposite sides. The weight of unspoken words electrified the air, and everyone shifted their eyes between Adi and Rudy. Their mother, aged but resilient, stood at the front, her eyes glistening with tears. "Boys," she began, her voice trembling but strong. "This town is hurting because of you. The rivalry has made neighbors turn against each other. Is it worth it? I miss the laughter we used to share, the dreams that united us." Adi felt his throat tighten. "I never intended to hurt you or anyone, Rudy. I wanted to follow my dreams." Rudy stepped forward, his heart racing. "And what about what we had? You left me behind. You tore apart a bond we could have cherished." Their voices pierced the gathered crowd, but all that echoed back were shared memories and disappointments. Expectation hung thick as the townsfolk held their breath, hoping to witness a reconciliation. At that moment, an unexpected silence settled. The brothers looked at each other, eyes filled with vulnerability. Adi opened his mouth to speak, but the lump in his throat choked back his words. Rudy clenched his fists, wrestling with emotions that surged like raw electricity. Could their mother's plea break through their walls? Or had the rift grown too wide for any words to bridge? As the tension wrapped around them, a rumble of thunder echoed in the distance, foreshadowing an impending storm neither of them could ignore. Would this be the moment to stand together against the storm, or would the rivalry consume them beyond repair? The answer hung in the balance, waiting to be found. As the silence deepened, the crowd shifted uneasily. The broken bonds felt almost palpable, twisting in the air like a tightening noose. Adi's heart raced. He could see Rudy's expression shift, tightening the skin around his eyes, a mask of pain and defiance that made regret swirl deeper within Adi's chest. "Mom," Rudy's voice broke through the hush, rough and pained. "You don't know what it feels like." He paused, swallowing hard. "You don't know what he took from me." The townspeople watched closely, each one holding their breath, wondering if this would be the moment of clarity or the point of no return. Rudy's frustration boiled over like a pot left too long on the stove. "After everything I've worked for, Adi, you had to go and throw it all away." The accusation cut through the room, sharp and stinging. "I was trying to do something different," Adi shouted, his own voice echoing off the walls. "You were always the perfect one, the athlete, the star. What about my dreams?" A flicker of shock crossed Rudy's face, then softened into something like regret. Adi's words rang true. Maybe they had both gotten lost in their own visions of greatness. Each brother wanted to build something of their own, but what was left now? A thick tension swirled as the storm outside began to unleash its fury, rattling the windows. Their mother stepped forward, eyes glistening as she placed a hand on Rudy's arm. "What you both had, it was special. I watched you grow, share dreams, believe in each other. This fight has taken away those moments." Her voice cracked, filled with an emotion that reverberated throughout the hall. "It feels good to be right," Rudy hissed, turning away, disbelief etched on his features. "But what good does being right do without family?" Adi's defenses faltered as the gap between them felt wider than ever. "I didn't want to be wrong. I wanted to make something of myself. I didn't mean to." He let the words drop, trailing off into an aching silence, feeling a weight of shame. Their mother's hand squeezed Rudy's, grounding him, nudging him back towards the moment they had to embrace instead of divide. "You are still brothers. You can still have each other. Don't let pride blind you." Rain lashed against the windows, violent and unstoppable, mirroring the tumult within them. Adi blinked against the tears forming, unsure if they were for the past or the uncertain future. Could pride really be all that was left between them now? At that moment, a baby let out a wail somewhere in the back of the hall. It broke the tension, reminding everyone that life continued, that they were part of something bigger than their pain. One of the elders stood, concern knitting his brow. We can solve this. Remember, the town needs you both, together. You can help heal what's broken. Rudy turned to Audie, the spark of hope flickering between them, but the memories of their rivalry lingered just beneath the surface. If I help, he began hesitantly, it might be the stepping stone we need to rebuild. I'll try, Audie replied, his voice barely above a whisper, overwhelmed with the possibility yet haunted by hesitation. The storm raged outside, but inside, amidst the growing warmth of caution, something shifted. A flicker of connection reemerged. Could they actually take that step back into brotherhood? Just then, thunder echoed a final clap, louder than all the words exchanged. It felt like an exclamation mark on their fragile moment. Would their next words carry the weight of mending two hurt souls, or would the storm beyond them prevail? In that moment, they stood at the threshold of choice, teetering on the edge of what could either be the beginning of healing or another fracture in their shared story. But as both brothers looked at each other, the opening of a door seemed possible if only one could take the first step inside. Would they be able to overcome the storm raging in their hearts? Or was this simply the beginning of a new conflict? The air in the hall grew heavy with unspoken words as Audie and Rudy shared a glance. It was brief but charged, a silent negotiation that held the possibility of reconciliation. The townspeople, still watching with bated breath, felt the tension wrap around them like a thick fog. Rudy's shoulders dropped, defeated by the weight of old wounds. I don't even know where to start, he admitted, his voice barely rising above the storm's fury outside. The flickers of lightning illuminated his face, revealing a vulnerability he rarely showed. I think we start by remembering, Audie offered quietly. Remember why we did all this in the first place. All the times we pushed each other to be better. Something ignited in Rudy's eyes, a spark of shared history mingling with fresh hope. The backyard games, he said softly. The races to the tree that summer when we built that stupid soccer goal out of old pallets? Audie chuckled, relief washing over him as memories trickled back. Laughter dimmed the shadows that loomed between them. Mom was ready to kill us when we knocked over the fence, Rudy said, half smiling. We were a mess. Yes, but we were a team, Audie insisted, his heart racing at the connection they were regaining. The memories flooded back, sweeping them into laughter, pulling them closer. The tension was still there, but so was the bond. Their mother listened, tears pooling in the corners of her eyes. You both were so fearless, so creative. Nothing could stop you when you stood together. As laughter eased the tightness in the air, Rudy found himself leaning closer to Audie. Do you really think we can fix this? The town, I mean us? Why not? Audie said, determination lighting his eyes. We've faced challenges before, right? What matters is how we come together this time. But the flicker of hope was still shaky, resting on the precipice. Rudy's eyes darkened again. But what if I can't get past it? What if this storm, it's just too much? Then I'll be here with you, Audie replied fiercely. We rise together or we fall together, brother. In that moment, it felt like the storm outside paused, as if waiting for their answer. The crowd leaned in, sensing the shift. The brothers were standing at the edge of something magnificent, and the fear that had laced their previous dialogue faded, replaced by the simple truth of kinship. A voice from the back interrupted. We need you both, working together. It was an elder, firm yet supportive. You can heal this town. This is your chance. Rudy turned to Audie, eyes wide with a mix of uncertainty and courage. If we do this, I need your word. No more secrets, Audie. Can we promise that? Absolutely, Audie replied, heart hammering. Together, no secrets. As rain lashed against the windows in rhythmic chaos, the brothers took a mutual step forward, hands reaching out tentatively. They weren't just brothers anymore. They were allies against adversity. But just as their hands grazed, a deafening crash of thunder roared outside, shaking the hall. The lights flickered violently before plunging the room into darkness. A collective gasp swept through the crowd, and in the confusion, uncertainty crept back. "Rudy!" Adi shouted, instinctively reaching out for him. The darkness felt thicker, and amidst the storm raging both outside and within, they quickly found respite in each other's unsteady grip. "Are you with me?" Rudy's voice trembled but held firm. "Always," Adi vowed into the void. The storm may have waged war outside, but here, in the heart of the hall, a battle for brotherhood continued. Would their resolve withstand the new turmoil, or would darkness sway them back into conflict? As the chaotic winds howled around them, the question lingered: is this storm a threat or an opportunity for rebirth? The darkness wrapped around them, heavy and thick, as the echoes of thunder faded into a haunting silence. Adi's palms felt clammy against Rudy's as he tried to make sense of the chaos. In the dark, their breaths mingled, quick and steady, and Adi could sense the tremor in his brother's hand. "Let us move," he whispered, fighting the urge to panic. "We can't stay here, we need to find the others." "Right," Rudy agreed, his voice a low murmur. They edged toward the door, feeling their way through the suffocating gloom. Each step felt monumental, a leap toward the unknown. The hall was silent except for the asthmatic wheezes of the wind outside, rattling the windows like a distant specter warning them of the battles ahead. The sudden flash of lightning illuminated the hall for a split second, revealing the faces of the townspeople, frozen in fear. Adi felt a rush of responsibility crash over him. They had to bring everyone back together. "Listen up," he shouted, hoping his voice would cut through the unease. "We started this as a community. We can still find a way to heal together." The room seemed to respond, the tension shifting at his words. Rudy's grip tightened. "We need to make a plan," he said. "Light, shelter, anything to help us. We can't let fear take over." The gathered crowd shifted, murmurs rising like a tide. Adi could see a few faces he recognized, friends, neighbors, all looking for direction. Suddenly, there was a pop, and the back of the hall lit up as candlelight flickered to life. One of the elders had lit a few, and the dim glow warmed the air, casting shadows that danced like memories. "That's it," Adi exclaimed, his heart lifting. "If we can light up the room, we can face the storm together." He looked at Rudy, and for the first time since the darkness fell, he saw a spark of resolve in his brother's eyes. "Let us get more candles, more light," Rudy called out, galvanizing the crowd. "Together, we can do this." As people scrambled to find flickering flames, Adi felt the burden of doubt easing, his brother's spirit lifting the room. They moved through the chaos like a current, and Adi could see the first hints of hope glimmering in faces once shadowed by fear. "I faced my demons today, Rudy," he confessed when they managed to huddle together once more. "I thought it was impossible to make things right, but I was wrong. We can pull through." Rudy nodded, a determined smile breaking across his face. "We just need to keep walking toward the light. Together." When the last candle flickered into life, illuminating the once dim hall, an air of unity enveloped them. The flickering lights transformed apprehension into resilience. Laughter broke out, tentative but real, as people began to talk to one another again, rekindling old connections. "But what if this storm is a sign, Adi?" Rudy's voice became serious, weighty as if the storm outside reflected his internal struggle. "What if there are things we can't fix? Then we'll face whatever it is together," Adi said, hope threading each word. "We owe it to ourselves, to Mom, to this town, to keep trying. We can't let this storm define us." Outside, the rain kept pouring, but in the hall, with their growing community around them, something new began to stir. It was fragile but real. The brothers weren't just brothers anymore. They were leaders finding their path back together. Yet, in the distance, something shifted amidst the thunder, and a sound came that froze Adi's blood, a crash, like breaking glass, loud enough to push through the walls of the hall. "What was that?" Rudy asked, fists clenching as the crowd grew silent. A wave of dread washed over Adi. "I don't know, but it didn't sound like the storm," he whispered, fear finally rearing its head again. Outside, lightning flashed once more, and shadows stretched ominously across the floor. They had faced darkness, but now a new challenge was ready to reveal itself. What lay beyond the door, waiting in the storm? Adi's heart raced as the unsettling noise echoed in the hall, shaking the fragile barrier between their optimism and the lurking shadows beyond. Rudy's hand squeezed his tighter, the questions swirling in Adi's mind like the storm outside. You think something has happened? Rudy's voice was barely above a whisper, eyes wide with unease. Whatever it is, we can't let fear win. We need to know, Adi replied, igniting a flicker of determination in his chest despite the gnawing dread. He turned to the crowd, rallying the remaining flicker of courage within them. We need to stick together, everyone. We're stronger as one, let us check it out. Murmurs dashed through the assembly like a pulse, but there was a noticeable hesitance. Adi stepped forward, projecting what he hoped was confidence. We've already overcome so much tonight. Let us not back down now. One of the elders, a woman with gray streaks in her hair, raised her chin defiantly. Yes, right. We've fought through storms before. The share of her words rippled through the crowd, bringing a few nods, a few resolved faces. Adi felt a swell of responsibility. If they were going to face whatever lay beyond, they needed commitment, not just his, but everyone's. All right, Rudy said, stepping forward alongside Adi. We can split up. 2 groups. One can check the back entrance and the other can stay here and defend. What do you all think? Let us do it. Someone shouted, breaking the fragile tension further. There was a rush of movement as people organized themselves, the foundation of their unity palpable even against the storm's roar. Adi was surprised by how resolved they all appeared. Their shared fear somehow morphed into strength. I'll go with you, Adi, Rudy said. All right, let us move. Adi rallied, heart racing. Together, they stepped toward the looming doorway, dread and resolve warring in their chests. The storm raged violently outside, but as they opened the heavy door, the sight that greeted them was a chaotic ballet of nature. Tree branches whipped through the wind, rain cascading from the dark sky in sheets. Lightning sliced through the inky darkness above, illuminating something that sent a shiver down Adi's spine. What was that? Rudy's voice cracked, eyes darting. Adi focused on a figure slumped against the back wall of the hall, a shadowy silhouette, curled and still, almost devoid of hope. Heart pounding, he pressed through the rain with Rudy close behind, cutting through the chaos in search of the truth they were desperately trying to face. Is it someone from town? Adi called out into the deluge as they rushed forward, the thunder drowning out his voice. They emerged enough to see that the figure was small, too small. Adi's breath hitched as he approached. It's a child, he shouted, panic rising. Help! We need help. The realization that they weren't just facing nature's fury, but a potential tragedy fueled them both. They made progress against their own fears only to stumble onto an even darker unknown. Rudy knelt beside the child, checking for signs of life, worry infiltrating his expression. Just then, the ground beneath them quaked, and a loud crash echoed through the tempest. Adi's eyes darted to the roof, a looming threat loomed overhead. We need to move now, he urged, adrenaline firing through his veins as they gently lifted the child. Fear mixed with a raw urgency to protect what they could. They raced back toward the gathering, the storm howling like a furious beast behind them. But the storm wasn't the only thing they had to worry about. What had caused the crashing? What awaited them in the depths of the tempest beyond? Hold on tight, Adi shouted, unsure what awaited them. Would their community once again rise together? Or would the storm rip them apart? What other secrets would the storm reveal? The rain lashed against their faces as Adi and Rudy powered through the downpour, desperately clutching the small, unconscious child between them. The weight of the moment bore down on Adi more heavily than the storm itself. He glanced at Rudy, whose face was etched with both determination and dread. Stay focused, Adi shouted over the thunder, his voice barely rising above the chaos. We're almost there. Just as they neared the entrance of the hall, another tremor rocked the ground. The loud crack of tree limbs snapping sent shivers down Adi's spine, the fear gripping him tighter. They had to get inside before the elements turned deadly. Rudy pushed open the heavy door, and they stumbled into the warmth of the hall. It was a stark contrast to the chaos outside, but the atmosphere inside crackled with its own energy. Fear and urgency hung in the air, thick like fog. People gathered around, their faces wide with worry, eyes darting to the rain-soaked duo. "What happened? Is he okay?" Someone cried out. "Get blankets. We need to warm him up," Adi shouted back, urgency flooding his voice. He laid the child down on the wooden floor, panic twisting in his gut as he examined the small face. A boy no older than 6, his skin pale, lips tinged blue. Adi could see he was shivering. Rudy began unwrapping his jacket, frantically calling for help. The elder woman from earlier stepped forward, kneeling beside them with an open heart. "I've seen children like this before," she said, her voice steady beneath the chaos. "He'll be all right, we just need to warm him up and check for injuries." As the blankets were brought forth, Adi felt a flicker of hope ignite beneath his fear. They were a community, and if anyone could pull together in a crisis, it was them. Yet, even as they worked, a nagging thought gnawed at the back of Adi's mind. What had caused the crashing sound? What else was out there, lurking in the storm's embrace? He peered toward the door, the wind howling like a wounded animal. The storm was not just nature but a force that carried mysteries and dangers. Adi looked back to Rudy, who was adjusting the blankets around the boy. "We should check for others. What if there are more?" Rudy nodded, the fire in his eyes reflecting Adi's own resolve. "Then we'll find them." They turned to the gathering. "We need volunteers. Whoever is able. Let us split into groups and search the area. Look for anyone who could be out there." The murmurs of agreement buzzed around the room, a chorus of determination rising against the frightening roar outside. Together, they paired off, ready to brave the storm once more. The weight of the world still bore down on them, but there was something different now. There was strength in their numbers before they could step outside. A sudden flash of light illuminated the stormy night, revealing a large structure collapsing not far from the hall. The ground shook again, a deep thunder that resonated with their very bones. "Did you see that?" Someone shouted, eyes wide with fear. "What if that's where the child came from?" Rudy speculated, his brow furrowed. Adrenaline surged through Adi once more, sharper now. "Then we have to go. We can't leave anyone behind." As the reality of their new mission settled over them, a wave of solidarity washed through the group. They were no longer just a gathering of lost souls facing a storm. They were a family driven by purpose, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Steps quickened as they prepared to venture back into the chaos. Adi took a breath, grounding himself. Together, and with that single command, they pushed into the storm shoulder to shoulder, determined to uncover every secret it held. But as they stepped back into the tempest, Adi couldn't shake the feeling that something darker loomed ahead. Would they find more than just lost souls? What shadows waited beyond the veil of the storm? The pounding rain drummed against the ground like a warning of the dangers that awaited them. Adi felt the cold winds whip past him, but he pushed on, the vision of the collapsed structure at the edge of the forest etched in his mind. The air was heavy with tension and electricity. "Stick close," Rudy shouted as they stepped further from the safety of the hall. The darkness was thick, pierced only by occasional flashes of lightning. Shadows danced around them, deceptive and foreboding. The makeshift search party quickly organized, urgency short-circuiting their fear. Adi turned to his group, a few familiar faces among them, neighbors, friends, and those he barely knew. "We need to stay together. It's easy to lose each other out here." He motioned for them to circumnavigate the hall, keeping an eye on the debris and fallen branches. As they moved, Adi's heart raced not just from the cold and rain, but from an instinctual fear that something horrible had happened nearby. They approached the remains of what used to be a barn, half of it caved in, its wooden structure splintered and exposed. "Over here," Rudy called, voice ringing out amidst the storm's roar. Adi rushed toward him and discovered the source of Rudy's excitement. A small, trembling puppy was trapped under a fallen beam, whimpering softly. The sight crashed into him like the storm, an innocent life buried and alone. "Can you lift that?" Adi barked, pointing at the beam. Rudy's eyes hardened with resolve. "I can try." Adi took a step closer, feeling the urgency pulse through his veins. On three. 1, 2, 3. Together, they lifted the beam with all their might. The puppy emerged, soaked and shivering but alive, its tail wagging tentatively as if unsure if it was safe to trust them. "Let us get him out of here," Rudy said urgently, and they cradled the puppy between them as if it was a fragile treasure. As they turned to retreat to the hall, a sharp crack echoed nearby. The ground rumbled again, and a new wave of fear swept through them. Adi's heart raced. "We have to go. Now." Just as they started moving, a figure appeared through the storm, stumbling as if lost. Adi squinted against the rain, a surge of both dread and hope flooding him. "Is that?" The figure drew closer, a young girl, soaked through and trembling. Adi recognized her, Maria, the daughter of the baker. In that moment, the world crashed down on him. "Maria, are you okay?" Adi shouted as he dropped to his knees before her. She breathed heavily, fear etched across her pale face. My brother." He trapped. The gravity of her words hit Adi like a punch to the gut. Where is he?" "In the old shed," Maria gasped, tears mingling with the rain on her cheeks. "He was helping me look for the puppy." Without hesitation, Adi turned to Rudy. "We need to get her back to the hall. Then we find her brother." Rudy nodded, determination sparking in his eyes again. "Let us move. Stay close, Maria." As they began to lead her back, Adi stole glances over his shoulder, heart pounding in his chest. The rain seemed to cloak more than just danger. It hid the shadows of the possible tragedy lurking behind it. What if they were too late? Together, they fought against the wind and rain, a small journey that felt monumental. Here they were, a group bound by shared purpose, and with every step, there was a flicker of hope, but also an undercurrent of terror. Would they reach her brother in time? And what other secrets awaited them in the heart of the storm? Each gust of wind seemed to taunt them, whispering untold stories of loss and rescue. As they reached the shelter of the hall, Adi's resolve set like steel. The storm may be fierce, but he would not let it rob them of their loved ones. And just as they were about to regroup, another crack echoed through the night, a sound that didn't belong to the storm. What could that mystery be? The group huddled in the hall, panting and drenched. Adi's heart hammered in his chest as the weight of Maria's panic settled over him like a heavy cloak. The reassuring glow from the lanterns cast flickering shadows against the walls, their light competing with the pounding rain outside. Rudy stepped forward, quickly gathering a few volunteers for the next search, his resolve unshaken. "All right, we need flashlights and anything we can use to help us move debris," Rudy said, his voice rising above the storm's howl. Whispers of concern rippled through the crowd. Some exchanged worried glances while others hurried to grab supplies. "Let us not waste time," Adi said, his voice steady despite the rising fear inside him. "Maria, can you lead us back?" She nodded, wiping her tears away with the back of her hand. There was a fire in her eyes that fueled Adi's courage. A few minutes later, they were back outside, the wind tearing at their clothes and the rain blurring their vision. As they progressed, the noise of the storm enveloped them. Adi kept one hand on Maria's shoulder and the other gripping a flashlight. He shone the beam ahead, illuminating the nearly indistinguishable path through the muck and chaos. Every step felt like a leap into darkness. Every lightning strike cracked like a reminder of what they were up against. "Promise me he is okay," Maria said, her voice trembling. Adi looked at her, holding her gaze steady. "We're going to find him. Promise." The old shed loomed ahead, outlined against the backdrop of the storm. Adi's stomach twisted as they approached. Memories flooded back a time when laughter filled those walls. Now they stood before a skeletal structure, half hidden in mud and debris. "Stay close, everyone," Rudy instructed, leading the way as they cautiously navigated through the treacherous terrain. They reached the shed, its door slightly ajar. The wind howled around them, but all Adi could hear was the shallow breath of anticipation mixing with dread. "Samuel!" Maria called, her voice breaking, reverberating against the peeling wood. "Samuel, can you hear me?" Silence pressed down around them, thick and malevolent. Adi stepped inside, flashlight beam bouncing off the rotting wood. His heart raced with every inch he scoured. Shadows danced like specters, and the rain pounded above, each drop seeming to drop a weight in his chest. Suddenly, from somewhere within the dark recesses of the shed, a muffled cry pierced through the din of rain and wind. Adi's heart leapt. "Did you hear that?" he asked urgently. Maria nodded, her eyes wide. "Yes, it's him." Rudy quickly moved to clear some fallen crates strewn haphazardly on the floor, shouting for Samuel to respond. The wind whistled through cracks, a mournful sound that echoed Adi's growing anxiety. Would they reach him in time? With frantic energy, they removed debris piece by piece. Adi's eyes roamed over the mess, searching, praying. "Sam!" he shouted into the darkness, his voice trembling. "We're here." Another cry followed, weaker but desperate. "There." A hand slipped into view, extricated from its confinement but still at risk. Adi's breath caught in his throat as he reached for it, his fingers brushing the cold, damp skin. "With me!" Adi shouted, urging everyone to pull together, creating a link of hope between them. But before they could clear the last hurdle, the ground shook violently, a rumble unlike any before. Adi's heart dropped. The storm was relentless, and now it threatened to take the shed with it. "Get back!" Rudy yelled, urging everyone outside. But Adi couldn't move. He could feel the weight of uncertainty bearing down on him, tethering him to this moment. The suffocating fear twisted inside him. What if they couldn't save Samuel? As he turned back to the shed, another crack echoed sharply. This time it wasn't the sound of lightning. The fear inside him shifted, morphed into a desperate urgency. "Sam, I'm coming." He stepped deeper into the chaos, prepared for anything, as the very structure around him creaked in protest. The storm was no longer just a backdrop, it was an adversary, a reminder of what was truly at stake. Would this terrifying storm bring them together, or would it tear them apart forever? As he pushed deeper, the ground beneath him trembled again, and the fate of everyone in the shed hung in the balance. What lay ahead would test not just their strength, but the very bonds of love and bravery. What choice would Adi make, staring into the eye of tumult? Adi felt his heart race as he fought against the chaos all around him. The storm roared, making every breath a struggle, yet the cries of Samuel reached him, feeding a different fire, the fire of determination. He could not let fear win. He could still save his friend. "Stay close," he shouted over the wind, his voice cutting through the noise like a blade. Rudy nodded, urgency igniting the resolve in his eyes. They worked together, lifting debris with a fierce strength that felt borrowed from the very storm that threatened to engulf them. With each crate removed, the way to Samuel grew clearer, and a flicker of hope ignited in Adi's chest. "Sam, we're coming." Maria's voice was a beacon in the pouring rain, urging Adi on. The ground quaked, the shed creaking ominously. Adi's gut twisted as another roar of thunder shattered the air. He'd be damned if he let this storm take another life. "Hold on, buddy," Adi called, inching closer, feeling the fragility of time slipping away with every heartbeat. Finally, they reached Samuel, his small, trembling body partially hidden beneath a heavy beam. Adi's breath caught as he crouched down, desperately inspecting the situation. "Can you move, Sam? I'm stuck. I'm so scared," Samuel whimpered. With a deep breath, Adi steeled himself. "Just hold on tight, we're gonna get you out." Rudy leaned in, eyes fierce with determination. Together, they gripped the beam, muscles straining. "On three," Adi shouted, adrenaline coursing. 1, 2, 3. With a jolt, they lifted. The weight felt insurmountable, the storm outside stirring the air with growing ferocity. But they grunted and pushed with everything they had. Finally, the beam moved, allowing Samuel to wriggle free. "I got you," Adi shouted, pulling him swiftly to safety, wrapping him in warmth as they emerged into the rain. "Samuel!" Maria rushed forward, enveloping her brother in her arms, tears streaming down her cheeks blending with the rain. The sight ripped through Adi with relief and agony, joy flooding the moment. "You're safe," she sobbed, laughter spilling from her lips. Rudy looked at Adi, eyes gleaming with disbelief and triumph. For a moment, the chaos around them faded. They had done it, together. But the storm wasn't finished yet. Another crash resonated behind them as a large part of the shed collapsed, tumbling into chaos. Fear gripped Adi again, and he turned back to the crowd rushing toward them. There were still people needing help. "Let us go. We need to find more." Adi pushed, energy surging through him again. "Together we can do anything," Rudy affirmed, and they started moving through the darkness as a unit. The rain and wind howled, but the strength of the community started to push back against the storm. They danced in the chaos, their flashlight beams stitching together shadows of determination. They were no longer just brothers. They were allies bound by courage. Finding others holding on, they encouraged each person to join, reminding them of their strength in unity. "Keep moving. We're fighting back," Adi yelled as the search intensified. Another muffled cry reached them. A tremor shot through Adi's body. He turned sharply, and his heart dropped. "This way." In an old barn nearby, Adi pushed through the door into the darkness. Rudy was right behind him. "Who's in here?" they called. "I'm here," came a faint reply, shaking about their determination. It was another child. The trio moved together, working together through an old, crumbling barn, barely holding against the storm. They raised the beams and walls together until each individual was freed. And as they did so, the tension began to lift, replaced by the electric thread of hope. They emerged into the light of the fading storm, drenched but alive. Adi's heart swelled as he looked around at the faces of unified courage. "We did it." Cheers erupted from the gathered townsfolk, an echoing sound that reverberated through each home in the community. They hadn't just survived the storm, they had thrived within it. Looking at Rudy, Adi felt an overwhelming wave of gratitude and kinship. "No more secrets, brother. Only together," he vowed, the oath sealing their bond once more. As the clouds finally began to part, revealing the soft glow of dawn breaking through, Adi felt lighter. The storm may have tested them, but it had also brought them closer. Heart full, he knew they would build something beautiful from this anew. And from the depths of their struggle, a bright light penetrated through darkness, illuminating the bonds of brotherhood, community, and love. Now, here's what you can do to keep the spirit alive. Subscribe immediately to the channel. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories filled with transformation and inspiration. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Seriously, your support matters more than you know. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear your thoughts and experiences. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the message of hope and unity. Only true fans understand how crucial it is to support the channel through these actions.